Hi everybody, welcome to our latest podcast here on a wet and rainy strawberry pub on the balcony. Everybody's not too impressed like that I've chosen this location. Quick notice before we get into what we'll be talking about was obviously the August month, the start of the season, of course, all the transfers, or shall we say the lack of transfers that didn't actually occur. Before we get there, I just want to quickly mention that we're raising money for the Bradley Larry Foundation on October the 24th. We'll be walking from, unfortunately, the Stadium of Light all the way to St James's Park. It's about 11.7 miles, so it takes us about 4 hours. We want to get you involved and raise as much money for that charity because it's a really, really good cause. No kids should suffer from cancer. Okay then, right, so let's get on with it. Let's crack on with, our podcasting. Right, so filming from our last podcast, this was just before the Spurs fixture, and then we're seeing the Mike Ashley interview come out, and we didn't discuss this on the last podcast. What I will do is I'll get Elisha to start first and we'll move around the table. There's three of us, by the way. There's Elisha, Will, so say hello when you first speak, and then we'll move around the table. So Elisha, what was your thoughts on Mike Ashley? There was no money, he says. There's no money in, all his money's in Sports Direct shares, and it was a massive, massive kick-off around social media, wasn't it?
Hi everyone, it's Elisha. So anyway, Mike Ashley, it just really irritates us because why, if he can't spend the money, why doesn't he sell it? I mean, I think he's valued it, I heard 450 million.
That's
I mean,
crazy,
I was thinking at least 200, what did he buy it for? Like
250 he's put in the club, hasn't he?
Yeah. I mean, that is just ridiculous. I mean, unless we get a really rich investor that would possibly invest, there's no way that's going to sell for 450 million. Like, that's ridiculous. Having his money in shares, again, if he's really that bothered about his shares, why is he owning a football club? It's just logical.
Hello everyone, I'm Will if you haven't guessed so far. I thought it was an interesting one. I mean, to echo Elisha, just some of his reasoning was, but it was almost like, why do you own a football club? If he's that worried about the shares, if he's that worried about how much money he has, he was talking about, I know this is something that really kicked off a lot, which was, he said, like, I can't write a cheque for 200 million, whereas, well, to be honest, we weren't really asking for that. We were asking for just a bit. You know, say you got Lucas Perez and the left back. I mean, how much was Kieran Gibbs again? 7 million? So 20 million would have probably sorted us out, which is, I think, the main criticism. There's been a lot of talk recently, especially in the paper, about, like, what is the actual reasoning, and apparently Ashley is protecting his investment to sell the club. But he values the club so highly, not that many people are interested, particularly when so much money has to be invested in the playing squad, say probably even another 100 million over a year. You know, so who can buy it for 500 million when, you know, Southampton's valued at what, 200 million? So yeah, I think that was how much it was bought for.
Yeah, Ashley, I think it was brave of him. I think I applaud him for coming out, for doing it, because he only ever seems to do it with Sky every couple of years. The criticism that fans seem to have of him is, yes, he owns a club. He's funded a couple of loans that he's had into the club to keep it going, including last year, because he chucked in over, what was it, 52 million, I think it was, something like that, to keep us afloat more or less, keep us a bit profitable. But yeah, Will, you're spot on about, he's got money, yes, but the one thing that annoys me, every week I see him buying 3% in this company, 3% in that company, and it's like, well, why are you investing in like Debenhams and what's the other one, the goal, the five-a-side football and all of that? That's what annoys me, because that money can be easily come out of his shares, and, you know, or money that he's making elsewhere. And we've got an owner which isn't going to put money in. Newcastle now need to be profitable on their own. Which
I do kind of understand that, in terms of Rafa can spend what the money it has, but that kind of point where it doesn't make enough. I kind of get that, because, you know, if we do stay in the Premier League, which is the worry, you know, we will obviously get the TV revenue in, which will, you know, aid that transfer budget enormously. But in this short period of a year where we're not convinced that we've got the squad to stay up, we just need that bit of investment just to make sure and be safe, and then you will get that money in, and Rafa can spend just that, and you don't have to invest 200 million or however much you think needs to be invested.
Yeah, it was a massive kick-off. Let us know if you're watching or listening, on YouTube, about that as well. Right, so that was literally, we knew that was coming out, that interview, and that was just before the Spurs game, and people were like, oh, well, why is he doing an interview now of all the times, start the season? Well, obviously we knew it was aired just before Newcastle were to play against Spurs. Everybody was up for it, start the season, everybody's spirited. It was a nice summer's day, well, if you want to call it summer. Nice beautiful pitch laid, everything was set for Newcastle for the new season, back in the Premier League, everybody up for it, the Gallagher flags in full force. We just want to talk a little bit about the actual game itself, and then what we'll do is we'll talk about Shelby, the fan cams, what people were saying, and some of the goals conceded as well. So obviously we went down 2-0. Elisha talked to us about the game, the Shelby sending off, did that affect it, and so on, first half, second half?
Yeah, I mean, the overall performance was actually quite good to be playing Tottenham, but as soon as that sent off, it just went downhill. Like, going in 0-0 at half time, I would have happily took that for full time, but Shelby getting sent off, then it just... I think that ruined it. I don't want to say that, but it's true, it ruined it.
Didn't it?
Yeah. But I think...
Do you think Newcastle could have hung on for a point?
Yeah, I think we could have got the 0-0 from that, to be honest, because when Shelby went off, you could see like the gap, and it just like let them through. And I mean, we don't really... I know Shelby's more of an attacking player, but I think it did, going down to 10 men, although of his position, did really affect the game.
I think Spurs are obviously an incredibly good team, and I think we all went into the game knowing that we could very much still lose it and play well. I don't think anybody would have complained. The shelving setting off pretty much condemned us to defeat, but the thing that did worry me about it was there was a distinct lack of outlet going. Like our threat was pretty idle. And a big thing's been made about Dwight Gale, how isolated he was up. Just up there on his own, and I know you're probably going to at some point talk about formation changes and...
Possibly, it hadn't come up like
I don't think you've ever mentioned you want to change the formation, not at any point.
You see me point now about the 4-2-3-1 where we're not losing, you can change it.
Yeah, I do get that, but I didn't think it was that bad. I think we probably could have lost the game of 11. It was
spirited until...
It was, so it didn't really disappoint me too much, to be honest, that game. I think with 11 men we probably might have nicked the draw, I think.
Yeah, I think you're both spot on. We're spirited, we're in it up until the sending off, and then it was all pretty much an onslaught, and then we didn't really have an outlet except from Atsu. I think obviously we'll come on to fan cams in a second. Shelby goes out and misses 3 games. We'll talk about him further in the podcast as well. Will he actually get back in the side? Because we know that is stupidity. We'll talk about Mitrovic as well. With those two, obviously I think they're just hotheads, and we're just going to have to live with it. So spirited performance. Going on to just touching on to that, because I won't talk too much about the Spurs game, I'll mention the fan cam. So obviously we're doing the fan cam straight after the game. A lot of people are saying, look, it's time to bring in transfers, because there was no lack of them by this point. Obviously we knew the hostel would come in a couple of days later, but people want to see more and more players coming in. Shelby, obviously that was the major talk on fan cams. That was the talk of everybody in the media. But Mikel Merino, when he come on the pitch, he was praised by a lot of people in fan cams, saying, look, he was that driving force trying to get us forward. Yes, it didn't come to avail, but he was still trying. And obviously we'll talk about Christian Atsu already. What was your general feel, Elisha? Because you were obviously around fan cams, where there was still, everybody was still in hope, weren't there? And it was just basically they wanted the transfers in. Yeah,
I think the biggest hope was transfers, and we could see where we needed strengthening. This was the first game out, and the transfer window's still open.
We had them injuries as well, didn't we?
Yeah, the 2 injuries, and we could just pinpoint where we needed to spend the money, which we didn't spend, but still we could pinpoint it. And you're saying Atsu and Merino, they were that game really.
After the typical ambulance.
After they were probably the focal point of that game.
Yeah, I think it was the positive to draw, because frankly that game could not have gone worse in terms of losing, Shelby getting sent off, and 2 injuries to our only fit left back, which I'm very sure we'll get on to.
Yeah, we will.
But I thought Merino looked very, very good for the 20-minute cameo show. But again, sort of remembering about that, by that point, 2-0 up, Spurs were pretty much just cruising and stuck it.
They were taking the win, weren't they?
Exactly. So he was allowed a bit more time on the ball, but for what he did show, I was actually quite impressed. And as a Shelby replacement, I think it showed a bit of signs of encouragement going forward for the short term anyway.
Yeah, we'll talk about Mourinho further on, because obviously against West Ham he's outstanding. I just want to talk about the goals, because obviously I was highlighting the goals, and we're going to talk about the goals scored and conceded in this podcast. Now obviously we can all blame Shelby. Obviously he effectively cost us the game. Do you feel it's harsh? I was blaming Manquillo, Elisha, on 2 of the goals because of the lack of marking. Probably your man Jamal Lascelles as well, as you're smiling away. He was very, very deep on one of the goals. Is this a concern? That because obviously we've seen it in pre-season with Manquillo. Are we going to? Is it acceptable for us to have defensive errors, knowing that we're coming in, we haven't got the greatest defence line in the Premier League, and is it harsh to blame Manquillo for the 2 goals in particular?
I wouldn't say it's harsh because one of them definitely did look like his to have, but it's worrying because you tend to build your teams from the back forward kind of thing, and we just haven't really built a team because we haven't spent. But yeah, it's worrying the defensive mistakes that we are making.
Yeah.
Because
only 1 game.
Yeah, if we look at the amount of goals we score and the amount of opportunities to create, dependent to what they created and how much we let them defensively, it is worrying, to be honest. And now we've got the injuries, which really doesn't help. But yeah, I am a little bit worried about my defence this season.
I think Manquillo, I think this is something I highlighted in the West Ham game a few times. I think even when we were 2-0 up, there was a big gap where he should have been. That they kept exploiting. So that does worry me in a sense. But with the injuries that we've got, DeAndre Yedlin
should be back this weekend, shouldn't he?
Yeah, so hopefully that'll be a bit. That's a bit of a boost. I hope he does, because I think Yedlin's much more suited in the system. A bit more. I think this is something else I think we brought up on the last one, where it was a bit surprising that Anita left, who's much more defensively, like, sort of resounding and sort of sit back a little bit deeper. I think, to be honest, I didn't actually think. I thought both goals that Tottenham scored were actually pretty good. To be fair, I think.
I'm not being nitty-picky.
Yes, I mean, obviously every goal, a mistake comes from. There's a reason why it is scored, but I think, considering the circumstances, you probably have to go back to the red card.
Yeah.
To be honest with that,
I would agree, but obviously I was just looking at individual errors, but it was early signs of that. Now coming away from that, obviously we're now focusing on that week, was trying to get players in through the door. A couple of days later, we're seeing Hoslu sign for about approximately 5 million. Now this didn't go down too great. Now I was one of these people, I was like, oh, you're joking me. This is Newcastle United. Why we're going for second-rate strikers? I was really frustrated. Obviously, we know that against West Ham he had a great game and so on. But I want his initial thoughts on the signing, and because there was a lot of doom and gloom. And when there's doom and gloom, you've got to stay off Twitter, because everybody twists about everything. Yes, Stoke fans will say they'll start to lose him because he was outstanding in pre-season. But Elisha, what's your general thoughts of the Hoslu signing? Is he good enough for Newcastle?
I mean, at least we signed a forward, that's a positive. But
I guess so.
it's an option. Now Mitrovic is banned, so. But I think we should have been going for bigger names, to be fair. Like, as I said, Premier League proven. He has.
Worry you because we've got enough goals.
No, I wanted Premier League proof. Yes, he has played for Stoke a few times, but I just think it's really important to get Premier League proven if we want to fight to stay up. Obviously, we're going to have to fight to stay up. We're hoping that wasn't going to happen, but looking at the transfers, it's looking like it's going to happen. But from the game so far, he's actually impressed us, and hopefully.
But at the time, though.
At the time, I wasn't happy, but now I am, looking at how the rest of the transfer window went.
The thing I had against Hoslu was that I saw reports that Stoke were rejecting bids of like 15 million or something like that for him, and I was just like, no, I don't want I wouldn't want to spend all our money on him, but for 5 million it's not that bad. I think when we started the summer, we all had expectations of the kind of player we could go out and get, and I think we had to reset them and then reset them again, because I think we all started like Daniel Sturridge, and then we all thought, okay, maybe that's a bit too far, considering they're asking for like 40.
It was a lot of talk about Lucas Perez, wasn't it, at the time?
Yeah. There was, which I think would have been a good signing, but the other one was like Andre Gray. I think a lot of people thought that would be a good one, and then he went for £18 million.
With 1 year left.
Exactly, like it's it put testament to how crazy the transfer market is. So we had to reset it again and go for Hoslu, who's only, I think, scored like, I think I saw somewhere that he scored like 9 goals in 2 years, something like that. So, I mean, yeah, in hindsight, he looks much better. And I think at the minute he's our first choice striker all of a sudden.
Which we'll come on to.
Yeah, but you know, it wasn't the most impressive signing. I think that's all I can say. But he seems to proved a couple of the doubters wrong. Fair to say. But we've only played 2. This is the thing. We've only had 3 games. How much can you tell from 3 games?
Nah, that's right, exactly. I mean, yes, he was great against West Ham, which we'll come on to, but initial thought, yeah, as mentioned, I was like that, and a lot of fans were, but you know, at least it was a body through the door, and that was actually our last body through the door. That's the top of my head. So that was the final signing of the summer, which was just after the Spurs game, which goes to show you Newcastle had 3 weeks. And we didn't sign anybody, so we'll come on to deadline day later on. Right, so that was a positive, and then the very next day we all met up. You weren't there, were you, Will, for the open day?
No, I was busy getting into university.
Will was trying to get into uni. So I went with Sharky, friend of the channel. Hello, Sharky, if you're listening. 100% NUFC. Drop him a subscription. There you go, Sharky. So obviously I went with Sharky, and then I met up with Elisha and Jade and one of your nephews or whatever it was. I think it's good that this is something that the club actually do well. They had all these bouncy castles, the rides and all this for the kids, face painting and all that, shooting penalties and all this kind of stuff, and inside you get to see the training. I generally think this is a good thing, and Newcastle need to keep this up, because we know in the last few years that Newcastle and the community relationship with the fans has been a little bit hit and miss. Well, more miss than hit. Yes, the social media has improved, but there's so much more that the club can do. But this is a start, and they need to keep this going and do a little bit more. Elisha, what's your thoughts on the opening day, and what did you do?
I thought it was great for the fact that 1, it was free, and 2, it just brings everybody together.
There's the ambulance.
There's another ambulance. Every time I speak, it's fire engine this time actually. But no, I just think it's good, you know, it's stuff for, like, you know, it's holidays, stuff for people to do, seeing the team, you know, for people who might not be able to afford to go to matches, just to get that chance and that opportunity. They get that opportunity to go and see the team, and I just think it was just a good day to be put on.
Well, so I wasn't at the one this year, but I was at the one last year. It was the first time I met you, I believe. Was it?
Face to face, it was last year.
Yeah.
But you've seen the vlog on YouTube, didn't you?
Yes.
So you got to experience it.
Yes, I did watch it. I actually genuinely did watch it. But it's always a good thing to put on, I think, and to, you know, keep the fans involved, because I think it's been one criticism over the past few years that we've been a bit devoid from it. So to have that, you know, quite close training session, you know, put on, plus all the activities to put on, I think it's always a good thing to do.
Yeah, definitely. I think, especially for the kids, because a lot of them met the footballers as well. They're signing in. I think that's great. I never had that as a child, and I would thrive on that if I was a 6-7-year-old and I seen the heroes, you know, and you get to meet them photos and sign. I think that's really good what the club do well. The Junior Magpies is a really good thing also. Right, so the focus then switched to the Huddersfield game. Now, as probably a lot of you who are listening seen my rant 5 minutes after the game, I wasn't too best pleased, was I, people? And I was swearing, but I just let rip, because what I was disappointed about, I'll talk about obviously what I was disappointed. It was obviously Mike Ashley it was clear evidence that Newcastle needed to improve. We're getting beat of a team who come up with us, finished something like 13 to 16 points behind us last season, and we struggled. They literally outbossed us for probably about 80% of the game, and it was just shocking from Newcastle. Nothing going forward. The communication as well at the back was awful. We'll come on to obviously the goal error, which we'll talk about in a second, but I was literally foaming and watched it on Sky Sports, couldn't get down there, and I just let rip. I was so frustrated, and I was more frustrated also with Rafa. He's, what's the word, stubbornness not to change the formation when we're losing. We've seen a couple of strange substitutions from Diame for Hayden, and then we're seeing Gale come off substitute quite early on, 55 minutes I think it was. And then, yes, Hoslu came on, and Newcastle looked better for him coming on for an outlet, but that was just shocking, wasn't it, Elisha?
Yeah, it was one of those games where you don't want to watch it, you just want to turn it off, but you can't turn it off because you need to watch it. But it was just awful, like, I mean, we played better against Spurs.
With 10 men.
With 10 men. That's how bad it was. I mean, it was just genuinely an awful game. We lacked everything.
Does Rafa need to mix it up when we're losing?
It depends. It depends who we're playing, to be honest, because some teams are going to be a lot more prepared than us, and if we mix it up, then they're not going to be prepared for that. Whereas teams that aren't, they're going to be prepared for every eventuality. But if we mix it up, say if we're losing 1-0, then at least we've got a chance if we're not offering any attacking presence, then mix it up, and then you never know what might happen.
Well, I'll ask you this question: does Rafa Benitez deserve the criticism after that game?
I would say yes. I would say yes in a way. I mean, one stat I have the Huddersfield game that I remembered is Dwight Gale. What did he play? Say 55 minutes.
Yeah, something like that.
He had 13 touches. One was in the box.
Yeah.
One was in the box. That it just shows how isolated he is. Now I put that down to the system. Frankly, I mean Huddersfield I thought did quite well in the game. It's fair to say, but yeah, absolutely, and they fully deserved the victory. And I'm surprised it was only 1-0. But it's just annoying how it's worrying how we can't set up differently against other teams. I mean, you're seeing how Swansea now play 3 at the back, and all these. I'm not saying we need to jump on the bandwagon, but we need to at least have an option to do so if we need to.
That was the talk everywhere after that.
Exactly.
Game, wasn't it?
So to only have Dwight Gale up front, and then we swapped him off. It was a straight swap for Arsenal, so you're not changing anything.
That's what I mean.
Exactly, and I don't know. But in all fairness, we do have a fair lack of options in terms of when it comes to what you can change. And also with that game, I think the only other excuse you could bring out, which I could possibly sort of make a compromise for, is the fact that we did have a very, very makeshift defence.
Which Mbemba come out with a lot of credit.
He did actually, in all fairness, but it's difficult, and the fact that we don't have a tactical flexibility really could cost us.
Yeah, I just want to touch upon, obviously, because I didn't touch upon that before. We had Chancellor Mbemba playing left back, and we were all looked at that line and we went, oh my god. And why wasn't Kieran Clark playing there? But actually, to be fair to him, he actually had an out. He was our man of the match. Well, my man of the match personally. So yeah, shocking. Everybody was on social media having it. Rafa was getting criticism. I would have to agree, rightly so. He deserves it because yes, Rafa's a genius, but there will be the times where he gets it wrong, and it needs to be. You learn from your mistakes, is the way I'll describe that. So I just want to talk about the goal conceded. I wasn't very happy again with Manquillo, more so Mourinho. Now, so I'll just talk you through it. So Moy picked the ball up outside the box and played a 1-2, and then an absolutely fabulous finish into the top corner. Elliott's got no chance. However, what I was really annoyed with was Mikel Mourinho just casually just didn't even see Moy, and he didn't even run him. The Manquillo running at the ball again. Errors again. Elisha, talk us through them. What's your thoughts?
This was a point where I was like, oh, Mourinho doesn't actually look that good of a player. And then he went on and impressed us later on with the next West Ham match about the night. But it was just there was no communication either. They were just like running around opposite directions.
Headless chickens.
Yeah, headless chickens. It's like, well, like at least talk to each other, tell each other. Like there was nobody was telling each other what to do, or kind of marking. No, it was just awful defending, to be honest. And I was very disappointed, and I was worried again with the defence. Again, it was just highlights the issues. Yeah, it highlights the issues with the injuries in our defence, which hopefully should be back soon. But yeah,
I think it's an extension of. Not only the goal was sloppy marking, but also throughout that game, especially the first half, the amount of times we gave the ball away was shocking. In a game where, Rafa definitely set it up to counter-attack it all, which you can kind of understand why. But when in the few times we did have possession, the amount of times we gave it away was absolutely terrible. I remember it was at the end of the first half. Like I think Mourinho got the ball, tried to pass it, and completely fell over, and they nearly scored.
Some people say he had a good game.
Yeah, I think people saw the West Ham game and then just said, "Oh, he's always been good." But yeah, it wasn't a good day for him. But
Manquillo, are you worried about him at that time?
I was more worried about that game. But this is the thing: first of all, we've seen it so many times where teams, don't have a good start, but they completely recover, and teams who've won the first 3 games completely just fall apart. So you can't judge that much. I think everyone jumped on the fact that it was Huddersfield. Yeah. But if you consider makeshift defence, considering their start with a 3-0 victory, considering arguably our best player wasn't available to us, and considering that you had Manquillo, who I don't even know, would you play him as a winger? I don't know.
Well,
because he can't.
Well, I work with a couple of Mackhams on my team, and they call him secret agent. Because obviously there's all these errors that he's committing, so they call him secret agent.
And also Mourinho was like his first full start. That's another thing I want to.
Yeah. So he was just catching him. I think I was saying, look, yes, he had a bad game, but he will catch up eventually. So, you know, there was a bit of doom and gloom, but we had a bit of optimism because the League Cup come round, and we're like, right, he's going to change the team, we're going to see some fresh faces, fantastic, and then a home tie as well. There was about 27,000, Elisha, you were there with Jade as well, and I was there with Sharky. Mind you, I just want to point out before we get on to that, it was only me and Sharky singing in that strawberry corner. Just me and Sharky, by the way. Kids, but that's the fan that attracts. But we won't talk about that. Newcastle dumped out the cup. It was very frustrating. Rolando Aaron's obviously come out with some massive credit, which we'll talk about him in a second. But again, Newcastle's Championship reserve side got put out by a Championship side, and Forest made 6 changes themselves as well. It was really frustrating. Grant Hanley had a shocker of a performance, personally, I thought. And Newcastle went out the League Cup for the very first time in a good few years. A couple of years, sorry. Never under Rafa, mind you. Second round, straight out. Yes, going forward, Mitrovic scored. It was great to see him and Aaron's, but defensively, Newcastle were all over the place. I highlighted, which will come on to the goals and forward, but that was so. I think people were more angry at the Huddersfield game, but I think after the Forest game they were deflated, and then the anger really started to turn on Mike Ashley massively all over fan cams, social media. Everybody was having a go at Mike Ashley. Look, the squad isn't good enough. Elisha?
Yeah, a take from that game, Rolando Aaron's. I still don't understand why he's not starting in the Premier League games, because I think, why not? Because
of Atsu's form?
Yeah, but still, he was one of the best players there. I was expecting him at least feature in the game West Ham. He didn't. But
what can you do?
Yeah.
Does he not fancy him?
I don't know, but I'm starting to think we do this whole cup thing on purpose. No, seriously, because we need to focus on the league.
Whereas last year we tried to have a cup run.
Yeah. Because, well, we just, I don't know. I'm just annoyed at the fact we got Nottingham Forest at home.
At home.
Yeah, in their reserve side versus our reserve side effectively. But it was just frustrating because we got back into the game as well, and then like the last few minutes, I think that was the most annoying bit, was that we fought back into the game, and then it just got taken away from us. But a very frustrating game, to be fair.
I mean, I didn't watch the whole game, I could only see the highlights. First of all, the goals we conceded were absolutely shocking. If Darryl Murphy had scored that last one, that would have been the king of all irony. But yeah, that was when I started to be like, okay, something's really not right. I'm trying to remember what that team was. I think Saive played, Sterry played, Gomez played.
Sterry was awful.
Was he actually?
Really poor.
We also had Hanley. Was it Hanley and Bemba?
Bemba centre back.
It just wasn't. I mean, just to see that our backup, because this is the thing. It's what I saw this game as an opportunity was first of all a win, to at least give us a bit of a boost of morale, freshness. See a couple more players. See if we can have a couple more options. I was wanting to see Gomez at left back to have a bit more. Instead of having to play centre backs who aren't left-footed. Potentially a right back if Manquillo keeps not defending, but again, none of them proved a case on why any of them should be in the team, apart from Mitrovic, apart from Rolando Aaron's. Actually, how was Jacob Murphy in the game?
He was all right. I think he was just trying a little bit too hard, and I think he was poor overall.
It does worry me how he's not playing.
He's not pushing he's got Richie ahead, hasn't he?
He does, but the fact that we're still not really he's only played about 4 Premier League minutes or something like that.
That's not much.
I mean, to see that the guy that was our most expensive signing isn't seemingly playing, that is a big concern for me. I mean, just how none of them really looked up to scratch to, that was against a changed Championship team, let alone a Premier League team.
I think it also shows the lack of quality in our plan B. Like our lack of squad depth.
This is it. You get one more injury. Say Marino Hayden gets injured, that you're asking Henri Saive to be in that team. Continue, sorry.
Yeah, it's worrying. I think that really showed, like, right, we've got basically a starting 11 and a few substitutes we're gonna make. Like, it was the quality from that game. It was just awful.
Yeah, I think it's echoing that the reserves. Effectively, it was a Newcastle B side that we weren't good enough by Forest side. We were half first team, half reserves. So we're obviously filming after fan cams. Everyone very, very deflated, as I mentioned before. There was no Well, no, there was frustration, but it wasn't. Everybody was sick of the weekend result. Everyone deflated, sick of it, and a lot of people were saying, "Look, he's got to play two up top." There's a few people on fan cam saying, "Why isn't he playing two up top when we're losing?" And we've talked about it already. When it's fans are asking the question, "Look, Rafa, mix it up, change it. If we're losing, stop playing the 4-2-3-1." I know that he tinkers it and he moves Richie to number 10. I know Richie didn't play in this game, will he come on later on, but I mean, he moves Richie to the left, plays him in number 10, but chuck two up top. And then everybody was having a go at Mike Ashley, including myself. Look, this squad needs money chucked at it because it just isn't good enough. So, Elisha, is the squad good enough, and would you play two up top when we're losing?
The squad is going to have to be good enough. I'm not.
We got an option.
Yeah, we haven't got an option.
But at that time?
At that time, no. I was expecting a few more names to come in. I don't even know why I was expecting that now. But I was hoping, optimistically hoping. But yeah, it's annoying, it's frustrating. I think Mike Ashley should have chucked money at it, to be fair. I know he said he has in the past when he gave like McLaren over 80 million.
Well, he didn't actually give him
Well, no, this is the thing. It was a Steve McLaren team and we're not giving the same to a Rafa Benitez team. That's my worry. Like, if I was Rafa, I'd be like, you've chucked that much and a manager before me, and, you know, arguably he's one of the best managers in Europe. He should be given a lot more. You'll get the frustration will show and the media will start again.
Well, it did show, didn't it, Will? Because obviously all that Rafa was talking about, look, he needs players out the door, he needs players out the door, he needs players out the door.
Yeah.
Obviously we know we'll talk about deadline at the time, but it's evident that Newcastle needed strengthening. Coming from the bench, we're weak, aren't we?
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, it's kind of already been echoed about how we haven't got the backup options to compete in the Premier League. If you think about the quality that runs through squads that we'll be competing with, it worries me how much we don't have in terms of backups. I mean, especially number 10. This is the thing, is when players were leaving, it was all being like, as soon as these players leave, we'll get players in. And also you have to think, if Rafa had the money that he wanted to, so a lot of players that are here would not be here, like even names like Mbemba and Mitrovic. I heard Mbemba was very close to leaving. It's just we do not have any resource to get anyone in. You can blame an inflated market and the fact that we missed out on Premier League money last year, but we just needed that, because if you invest, say how much, well, we said 20 million, say you got Gibbs, you got Lucas Perez. If you think that they could be the difference between relegation and 17th, how much money does that save? Yeah. You're gonna save so much money. That investment will be way worth it if it means you stay in the Premier League, because right now it's really touch and go. I've seen I think Sky did a like a predictor, and I think for all the fans after the transfer window, I think Newcastle are down to 19th, only above Brighton. And to be honest, I kind of agree in terms of our squad quality. I think the manager is going to have to be the difference at the minute between us staying up and us going down. If Rafa walked, then game over.
Yeah, he's the difference, isn't he? We've got Rafa Benitez, that's the positive, because I think he will obviously. I still think he'll keep up. I'm very, very confident of that. Whether we keep him or not is another matter of the ball playing. So, talking about the goals, obviously we've done the video afterwards. Roland Aarons was absolutely fantastic, causing problems until he had that little knock, causing Forest problems. He was coming more central as well, which was a bit different. He was coming off the left, coming more central, running at Forest, scored an absolutely fantastic goal with his weaker foot. On the negatives though, the goals that were conceded, the communication between Hanley and Mbemba were absolutely shocking. Henri Saivet has to be included in that, but more so Hanley. Again, I mean, the communication, we've seen it with the first team, Elisha, and we've seen it again now with the reserves team, that Grant Hanley, I know we've sold him, but was he good enough to actually come in at the side at the time?
I think he was good in the Championship at his moments, as cover, but I don't think he could, that was Nottingham Forest, so he should have been good enough, but he wasn't. I was quite disappointed, to be fair, because he has done better. And again, it's basics, communication. You know, we need to go back. I think we're going to have to go back to basics with this squad and just work on the basics and build from there, because obviously we've got no more names in. We don't have, you know, a great player in defence, so we're just going to have to go back to basics with it, from my point of view.
We'll talk about Roland Aarons because he was absolutely fantastic. It was a bit harsh, well, unfair, or not to get in the West Ham lineup because he was phenomenal.
Yeah, he was great. Again, from what I saw, the 3-minute highlights that I posted, the goal was good. But I think the one thing I would say that Matt Ritchie really lacks is just that out-and-out pace, which is what Aarons gives you.
Yeah.
And to have that as a different option is always good. He's a young, exciting player. I remember when he came onto the scene, what was it, 2014, and he scored on his debut against Crystal Palace.
It was across the one, it really.
Yeah, well, I saw it. I was there and I went crazy. But you know, he's shown so much promise, and I think he's one of these players that we're definitely going to need to keep hold of because he's a real asset.
Then, because it doesn't look like Rafa fancies him. If you had the option of bringing Aarons on and Murphy on, who would you pick?
Who would I have to bring them on for?
Doesn't matter.
Actually, that doesn't. Actually, no way. Hold on. It really doesn't matter.
If you're trying to win a game, you've got one sub left. Who you go for?
At the minute, I've seen more of Orlando Aarons.
There you go.
So, yeah, that's what I'll have to say.
Yeah. Okay. So obviously, the first team defence let went down. The reserve side let went down. I just want to touch on Mbemba because that was his chance to claim a centre back position, and he ballsed it up, big time, because we know that he's down the pecking order at the minute. Right. Some good news. A transfer heading out. Emmanuel Riviere actually left the club. We've been trying to get him off the books for how long? 2 years. First season when he come in, he was absolutely awful. But you know, his goal scoring record, he scored 13 goals for Monaco. And I thought, it's not too bad. 6 million, we might get another French bargain. But obviously, Graham Carr's buy didn't turn out to be that way. And then he was loaned out with Osasuna, which, do you know, he didn't score at all last season. Not one goal for Osasuna. And then Mets did this big thing on Twitter announcing them. I thought it was quite funny personally because they don't know what they're getting. They really do not know what they're getting. Fantastic. The first out of many, first out of 3 that were getting out the door. First signs, yes, we'll get the wages because he's on something ridiculous like 40k a week, which is madness for a player who can't even stay on his feet. Great news at the time, wasn't it, Elisha, that we got finally him out the door?
Yeah, at the time, this was looking at, oh, look, this is one of the players we need to get rid of because his wages were ridiculously high for his quality. And it was like, yeah, this is it, we're going to go out and get a name in, which we didn't. But at least he's off the books because he would have just got loaned out again. At least that's it, we're done. And we've got him out completely now.
I'm more shocked the club took him.
Agree. I'm shocked we took him. But to think we had this guy over Charlie Austin is just boggles my mind, frankly. Frankly, I think Elisha could have done a better job. Frankly, it was the worst. It was actually our replacement was probably the worst player I've seen play for Newcastle. Yeah, because I've never seen a player contribute nothing, like absolutely nothing to
Worse
it.
than Cisco.
Sorry,
worse than Cisco.
I never watched Cisco play. At least Emmanuel Riviere played.
Oh well, okay, right, yeah, so absolutely, that was quite brief, that one. We'll move over. You don't have to talk about too much about this one if you don't know much. Stuart Finley headed to Kilmarnock out on loan until January. I just want to touch upon, obviously, that's great for him. He's his second spell. Obviously, gets involved in social media and stuff, but just want to talk about quickly, I'll just touch upon this, it's just broke my mind. Not many of the under-23s went out on loan this year, you've noticed that? Wasn't many, to be fair, and we thought the likes of maybe Barlaser will go out on loan, Yassan Ben Almani would go out on loan as well, but it's quite surprising that one, Elisha, that we didn't see many of the 23s head out.
Yeah, I was quite surprised.
Considering we've got a big squad on there as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see a few of them start featuring on the bench now.
Yeah.
For that depth.
Fernandez.
Yeah, but you know, it's good for him to go and get some experience at somewhere he will play and get that experience, and you never know, he might end up playing in the team one day.
Well,
testament to show how much faith has been lost in our B team that we're considering our C team. But yeah, I think that we've definitely got some promising players in there, and I really hope that some of them do at least start to feature. But you know, we have to prioritise results over youth development.
Obviously, Barlaser played, Sterry played. You know. I think Barlaser's the pick. It looks like he is the one that's now needs either a loan spell or he's going to be pushing. So I think if there's an injury crisis after Savvy, I think he's next.
Yeah, but I think so as well. I mean, your guy's doing fantastically at Blackpool, isn't he? Sean Longstaff. Yeah. He's doing brilliantly, and so there's definitely some promising players in there, and you know, it would be beneficial to see them on the bench, but you know, they really. could be an answer for us. But I think a lot of us would rather have seen players being brought on.
Are you excited by any of the lads on the 23s?
Well, I have seen. I like. You showed me Victor Fernandez.
Yeah.
I like him. I really like him. Also, I think Daniel Lazaar looks pretty promising as well. Ben Armani, there's a lot of hype around him. Also, what's his name? Yanni, who came from Everton.
Yeah.
So there are definitely names that are in there who I think we could see, but I wouldn't count your chickens on them featuring, considering how Rafa is normally quite tentative to push through the young kids when there are maybe senior options available.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see many of them. Maybe the FA Cup possibly, but because now Premier League isn't, we've only got the Premier League. If we had that Cup run, I think we'll have seen more of the kids as well. Obviously, if you're listening, we actually go to the under 23 home games, so if you want to get involved in that, let us know. So we went into the West Ham fixture. Some people were saying it's a must-game win already because Slaven Bilic was struggling. He was on 0 points. Newcastle on 0 points. He was under a little bit of pressure whether the owners were going to sack him. There's a lot of talk. Rafa Benitez was ironically going to go to West Ham. But where the hell did that performance come from, Elisha? 3-0?
I don't have a clue.
Completely different, wasn't it?
Going into that game, I was actually really nervous. I was like, this could go horribly wrong because we were both in such a similar position and we both needed the points, and the way we just bossed that game, to be fair. Everybody was great, to be honest. No problems with it, we kept it cliche. The atmosphere was brilliant as well. I think that really lifted us going forward.
I haven't seen the Milburn stands actually sing.
Wow.
Honestly.
Sitting in the Milburn stand.
Lisa stands never sung.
But yeah, I don't know where that come from, and Joe Hart is still number one choice for England, which is surprising.
Newcastle podcast.
Sorry, England played yesterday.
They didn't really.
Well, they did.
They won, but we didn't play.
Yeah. It's annoying.
But just talk about like performances wise, who stood out and all that, and where they come from.
I tell you what, Richie just ran that whole, he was knackered by the end of that game. I was surprised at how much he actually ran that game. It was just brilliant. Mitrovic actually did well as well. Sharky won't be happy with me saying that, but I don't have a problem with anyone in that game, to be fair, apart from Rob Elliott, and his distribution needs to get a lot better.
Talk about Mitrovic.
I was impressed, and then he went and done the stupid elbow.
Didn't know at the time, did we?
Yeah, didn't know at the time. Now would do because he's banned for 3.
What do you make of that?
It's stupid. It's stupid. They know at the minute we're already short on players getting banned for doing stupid things, and now we've got another one. They really just need to calm down and focus on the game rather than getting themselves wound up all the time. Especially when we're winning as well. There was just no need for it.
Yeah, 10 minutes ago we're 2-0 up. Will, what's your thoughts on the 3-0 win? And obviously we'll talk Mitrovic at the end.
Sometimes I was shocked because in comparison to the first two where we completely sat off and let them come on to us, they were actually charging them down. I mean, Richie was actually running through brick walls to get that ball, and it's amazing. I was sitting in a bar in Mallorca, little,
You always
Nottingham Forest. I was in Edinburgh and it was soaking, but I was surprised we could have won that game 5-6-0. It was absolutely amazing. They had a couple of I was saying before, if putting the pressure on them is your way going to win that game.
A lot of people were worried about Hernandez, weren't they?
They were, but they marked him out the game completely, and that's what you have to do. And then they had the young kid Rice, who they just charged down, put pressure on. Zabaleta, has lost his legs in the last couple of years, so you're targeting that with Atsu, and it was just a great performance. And we need to see more of that from our home games, because I feel as though this season we're kind of going to be like what Burnley were last season, having to capitalise on the home games, sort of attacking teams and putting the pressure on and constantly charging them down, and we play much better like that, and we can control it. I thought Hayden and Marina were absolutely magnificent.
Robert Hosselu?
He was great as well. His movement was fantastic in that game, and again he was just absolutely charging them down. I thought in the first half Perez was a bit ghostly like he was against Huddersfield, but the second half, really worked a lot harder, and he was charging it all down. Same thing with Mitrovic, although he unfortunately ran into Manuel Lanzini.
Stupid, isn't he?
Yeah, extremely. So it was an incredibly encouraging performance, and I hope, as we go further into the season, we start to see more performances like that and really capitalise on the home advantage that we have and taking control of the game.
Yeah, surprising Dwight Gale was dropped. We didn't know what it was for at the beginning. Obviously, we're now, well, the local press round here just round the corner and the big market, well, the Goat Market's called, Groat Market, sorry. They were saying that Gale had fallen out with his attitude and Rafa didn't play him, which is slightly surprising. Wouldn't think Gale would be doing that, but Hoslu's coming in from the start. I was a little bit surprised at that. I thought he did fantastically well. Going on to the fan cam straight after the game, you know, people were talking about Mikel Merino. What a performance that was. Oh, he just oozes class. He looks sexy, as I would say. He did though, didn't he? Not naturally physically, but you know, his performance was sexy and got his own little song chant made up that went a little bit viral. Hoslu was fantastic. Mitrovic scoring yet again, 2 from 2, 8 and 8 for Serbia. He's scoring, but obviously we know he did that stupid daft thing, and Newcastle defensively looked so much more solid than what they did in the previous media. People were talking about, look, this will shut the media up. When you interviewed Rob, Elisha, he was saying, look, it's going to shut the media up because Newcastle were getting a lot of bad press with Rafa Benitez, and that literally did shut them up, because I was sick of the national press hounding Newcastle. Benitez out, he's going to leave, all the sort of rumours and all that. That was just the performance, just shut them up, wasn't it, Elisha?
Yeah, from our side, and then West Ham decided they were going to try and take him, and then it started again. How much was it? 5 million.
And we were filming in fan cams, and the owners walked past.
Yes, that was not our fault at all. But
they were listening in.
Yeah, but I think for performance-wise, it shut all the media up. It's shown, look, we're here. Have a good go at this, and Rafa's gonna have to try very difficult with the team that he's got to keep up.
Yeah, at this point we expected signings to come in now. There's only a few days left, 5 days left. I thought, right, got to win. We're going to get some signings in.
Yeah, it was all about capitalising on that momentum we'd now caused to, you know, get signings in and, you know, have a squad that we felt was ready to go for. Obviously, that didn't quite materialise as we all hoped for, but in terms of, if you want to keep going on about the media, you know, a lot was criticised at Newcastle and how they were all just going to kind of collapse, and how Rafa's not interested and how he's just going to bin it off if we don't get anybody in. And it was just a fantastic performance, and it gives us encouragement to show, you know, we actually can do it, and we can beat teams. Because I think the Huddersfield one really knocked people, because that's a team where I think about 90% of the people expect to finish 20th, let alone get relegated.
We were expecting to get something from the game, weren't we?
Exactly. I mean, like Elisha, I was quite worried going into the game, because West Ham are an established Premier League team with a bit of quality, like with Antonio, with Hernandez, with Manuel Lanzini. But to absolutely run the game was a great thing to see, and against teams like Palace, Bournemouth, Swansea, we need to do the same thing.
Right, so a fantastic win. Everybody happy. The atmosphere, again, touching on that, was mint, the atmosphere. Obviously, we were filmed on BT Sport, little plug there, which is fantastic. Got a nice little feature on there. People are coming up to me and we're going, I saw you on BT Sport. I was like, shh. Do you know how I work for? So that was good. And obviously, keep up the BT Sport from the 2 years. You will get featured more. So let's just talk about the goals. I just want to talk about that. Elisha, you've already touched upon this. I highlight the high pressing massively. 2 of those goals came from Richie pressing really, really high. He nicked the ball for the first goal, that led to a goal on the counter, and it was the Kieran Clark's goal as well. Him hounding on the Lanzini, dispossessing Lanzini, were going to score. Also, West Ham individually was shocking. They were a little bit all over. It was a bit of a mixture of both. I think James Collins helped us a big time with his positional sense, was literally all over, and Ogbana as well. But that was something different, because we hadn't seen that high pressing. And Perez, give press, his high pressing, give him praise. Didn't do too much on the ball, but what he didn't do, he was hounding their defensive line, which Perez gets criticised massively where I sit. There's a guy who sits next to me, you might have seen him on the recent match experience videos. He shouts and goes off it at Perez, and Dummett in particular, and I have to say Perez that's the hardest I've actually seen him ever work. Genuinely the hardest off the ball, and that caused West Ham problems, and that's a tactic that we might look into, wouldn't it, Elisha?
Yeah, I'd definitely go for that. For teams set up like West Ham, I think it worked. Richie, as I've said before, I'm just really impressed. Hoslu getting another goal as well. Kieran Clark, as much as I criticise him sometimes, to be fair, he has been decent this season. But yeah, I was just very impressed with the performance all round.
Well, anything to add on that?
Not really. I think the Yep. No, I really don't have
I
anything
think we
to add.
can't play it every game, can we? We can't play high pressing against every team.
No, of course
Because
not.
if you're playing that against Chelsea, their quality will just outshine you.
Yeah. I mean, I've said it already. I think for the home games, that's a great tactic to initiate against the teams that we should be beating. I think that was the main critique for when we went down. We weren't beating the teams around us, like Bournemouth, like Watford, like all those. But at those teams at home, I think we can adopt that and we can win a lot of games. I think away from home, Rafa's going to stick it with the counter attack and he's going to try and at least get a point, because in a relegation battle, that's what it's going to be, ticking over, just getting points left, right, and centre, and being able to make sure that we get to that 40-point mark as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I think away from home we'll play that counter system, whereas home, the high press, and something that we might look at. Right, so that was the game done. We went into the international break. We're seeing Grant Hanley leave a couple of days later for Norwich. Great signing for Norwich for the Championship. I think he'll do well there. But personally, I don't think he's Premier League quality. I just think he's found his level at Championship. He'll go on. Obviously, he played for Scotland in the international break as well. Fifth choice centre back. That was a right decision, Elisha. Move him on, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think, as you said, he's found his quality in the Championship. I don't think he would even feature that much this season. So, best for him to move on and find a new club.
Well,
yeah, he's a solid Championship centre back. He kept Jamal Lascelles on his toes throughout the whole season and made sure that he kept performing even when he was injured. There were a couple of times that he was
when he was injured.
He was, but there were a couple of games. I think the main one I remember was, I think it was Derby at home, that Lascelles was dropped, or one of them was dropped for Grant Hanley, and he kept them both on.
One of the
Kieran
games
Clark,
I remember,
yeah. And he was dropped, and Grant Hanley comes in and keeps them on their toes, and he was a good backup. But that is his level, and with Lejeune and Bemba, I think that's our four solid centre backs. And you have to remember, we did have to get the squad down to 25, I think. Yeah. But I think we also, of course, expecting more signings to come in. But for that particular position, I think we're pretty much covered.
Right, before we get on to the non-deadline tea, let's talk about, I want to touch upon Lazaar, then we'll come on to Tim Krul in a second. So Achraf Lazaar, this was to be expected that he was going to go to Benevento, as the Italianos would say. He joined on loan, the social media king, selfies left, right and centre, one for the ladies, isn't he, definitely. Now he left on loan. We've seen him play in the Forest game, thought, because he was out on Italy, trying to get a move to Genoa, one of the Milan-based clubs, not the two big ones. And then he came back, played, was a bit odd, then he went back out and his agents got him a deal at Benevento. What's his future hold for you, Elisha? What's his stand?
From what happened, the fact that we didn't
play?
Yeah. I don't know. I was quite disappointed he didn't actually play more, to be fair, because what was the point in spending the money and he didn't even feature, really. And then we also let him go with a crisis with the defenders, which was even like dafter. Like the fact that both our left backs are injured, basically. And we'll let him go. I don't know the thinking behind that. I don't know what goes on, but...
Will, what about you?
There was this whole theory on deadline day that Lazaar wouldn't be let go if you could get neither Matt Targett or Kennedy, and neither came, and we still let him go. So I don't quite understand where all that came from.
But what's his future?
I think he'll spend the season away. He definitely will spend the season away, and then he'll probably be bought.
Because when he comes back, he's got 3 years left on his deal.
I think
if we kind of shift him, he's going to be in the same boat as like the Riviere situation, isn't
exactly. I think he'll be sold at the end of this year, permitting we actually have a left back by then, or if we're in the Premier League. I mean, if we're back in the Championship, we might have to stay. But it's I don't think Lazaar really has a future at Newcastle. When he played, he didn't really do much, but in all fairness, he didn't really play to really have that much of a chance. So, I mean, Rafa probably definitely knows this squad better than we do, so he obviously has his mind made up. But for him to be let go when no other left back was available,
does that tell you something about him?
Yeah.
Does that tell you about something about him, Lazaar?
What?
Does that tell you something?
I'm sorry, I thought you said you were going to tell me something about him. I think it does. Actually, particularly on that against Barnsley, I think we had an injury and Dunham got moved to centre back. And of the two, Haidara and Lazaar, he brought on Haidara. I think that says a lot. I think maybe it might be something to do with his work ethic. I think it's personally down to the fact that he prefers to have a much more defensive-minded left back.
He looks a bit erratic, doesn't he, at times?
He does. I kind of felt that he's much more of a winger than he is a left back, and we're definitely well stocked in that area. Maybe not in quality, but definitely in numbers. So I don't think he's going to play for Newcastle again.
Yeah, that's everyone get. Hopefully this moves on. Shame DeAndre Edlin loses his bro. Quite funny on social media, the pair of them. Right, so yeah, let us know what you think about that. Moving on to, I just want to touch quite a little bit on Tim Krul, because I think he deserves it, and obviously I've done a video and I talk quite in depth with him. Tim Krul, obviously we'll talk about you moving to a rival first of all, which was it's a bit odd, but I guess it's player out the door, get a small cash fee for a loan. His future is effectively over because he's only got a year left on his deal. He's out there on loan. He'll probably be signing, I would imagine so, at Brighton permanently at some point. So first of all, Elisha, then let's touch upon Brighton, and was he treated poorly by Rafa Benitez?
For the amount of years he's been here, I think it was quite a disappointing way to let him go. He had done good for us in the past, but he wasn't going to get a game, so fair enough, we'll let him leave, but I think we should have treated him a lot better than we had. Also to Brighton as well, which is
because he'll probably be their number one now.
Yeah, he's going to be their number one. Quality wise, he's much better than what they've got, but it's just a strange one. I mean, good business by Brighton, because then they're going to get a player out free if they want to keep him next season. Yeah. So good business by them.
Well,
I think it's an odd one. I think there were two clubs that he could have gone to, which were Brighton and Nottingham Forest. Much rather he went to Nottingham Forest, because Brighton are our direct rivals. I mean, as a goalkeeper, he had his absolutely unbelievably outstanding moments. I mean, particularly the season we finished 5th. I think he was the second best keeper in the league statistically.
One comes to mind, and straight away White Lane when he had
exactly
20 shots at him.
Yeah, and he saved all of them. Literally was a brick wall in that goal. But he also had his games where a bit erratic and stuff.
This is maybe a little bit too young, but his debut against Palermo, he was 18, was chucked in, we had a goalkeeper crisis. We won 1-0 in Sicily. Yeah. He was absolutely phenomenal, he was outstanding. Yeah.
I was 7. I was 7. So I probably don't remember that. But I mean, in comparison to our sorry?
I'm a young teen myself.
How old were you? You're a year younger than me, aren't you?
5 or 6.
Wow.
You feeling old yet?
I would have been what? Maybe teens, yeah, I would have been 17.
You'd be where I was now.
17, 18, yeah.
Oh my god. Right. Anyway, while I was talking about Tim Krul,
yeah.
In comparison to the goalkeepers that we've got, he clearly doesn't trust him.
Yeah, because he's chucked to the under 23s, one straight away.
Exactly, and Rafa clearly wanted the goalkeeper anyway. So, you have to put faith in his decision making, and he obviously sees something in Darlow and Elliott that they have something more than Tim Krul. It might be down to injuries, because Tim Krul's always had injury issues in my memory. So I think it's
Rafa says it's just business. Is that true?
It is kind of the thing with football. There's sentimentality is kind of dying, I think, within it. But I think it's a sad way to let him go, because he's been an absolutely wonderful, wonderful servant, and could have been I think he could have been our number one till he retired, frankly. And he still sounds Geordie, despite the fact he's Dutch. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's a sad way to let him go.
Speaking of Geordie, he's obviously got a Geordie girlfriend. He's little and went to Geordie school. Loves Newcastle. He put that little message out there. It's quite heartwarming. I thought yeah. Not many footballers who leave Newcastle actually do that. There's very, very, very little. I would ask is, do you think you'll get a testimonial, because you've done 11 years when you retire? Do you think you'll actually get one with the club?
Yes, no, I don't think our club's that sentimental anymore to testimonials, unfortunately. He deserves one. He 100% deserves one, but I don't think he'll get one.
Well,
deserves one, probably not going to get one, unfortunately.
It's a bit of a shame, that, isn't it? I'm going to ask you this question, because there's people who like Tim Krul and people say he's the best goalkeeper we'll have. If this debate about Krul, Elliott and Darlow, who's the best goalkeeper, it's very, very 33%, I would say. It seems that way amongst fans. We'll go around the table. Who's the best goalkeeper out of those three?
Over their careers or now?
Now, if you had to pick one of those three. So difficult.
You know what it is? I'm just going to go Tim Krul, because of his experience at our club and like the changes that he's seen.
Ooh, I don't know. It's like Krul's had he's had the more outstanding, but so is Elliot. Like, they've both had their absolutely outstanding games. I just have that memory of that Norwich thing that he did where he tried to kick the ball and he completely missed it. I'm just for debate, I'm going to say Elliot.
See, that I would go Krul, but the fact is we haven't seen enough of him, so I can't really judge him the last 2 years. Yes, he had a second half good season at AZ, but I would have to just pipe just slightly for Elliot. But I think they're all very, very similar. And is Freddie Woodman so far behind these three? Probably not. He's probably just behind them, if not on a level par. But it's just do you chuck him in? Are you going to be brave enough? We'll have to see in the. Well, I think he'll play in obviously the AFL, whatever you call it, Checker Trade Trophy. I think he'll play there. Right. So we'll go on to the deadline day, and then what we'll do after this, we'll get on to your questions. So the deadline day, you know, it was what pees me off is that, with no pun intended, we targeted Southampton's second choice left back and third, whatever, and we didn't get him, and that worries me because he was like, there was some discussion allegedly that he only wanted to come to January in case he didn't get first team football. Newcastle wanted him over the full season of the loan. Lucas Perez allegedly turned us down to go and join Deportivo because he wanted to go home. It wasn't about money for him, which I can understand that. It was just an awful day. We were expecting players. What's your general thoughts about it? What's your general thoughts about the fans? We obviously done the group interview with group hangout with David and Sharky joined. Everybody was just annoyed at it. Sharky, that's it, Sharky. 40. Sorry, 40. Hello, 40, mate. How you doing, mate? Welcome to Newcastle. So sorry, 40, if you're listening. I do that all the time. You'll not be listening anyway, because if he listens, he'll pipe up on WhatsApp messages. So we'll see. So we had that discussion, and then obviously just after that, it was the talk Rafa Benitez. Well, I was really concerned that, look, he could potentially just drop and go if he wanted to. He doesn't need the money. All in all, Elisha, sum up your deadline day, Rafa Benitez, the squad, and did the board let us down and Rafa down?
The board always let us down.
Yeah.
And the flat were down again, and I think, do we give up on the hope of 1 year they won't let us down? It was worrying at the time, and I think genuinely now the only thing that is keeping Rafa here is the fans.
The Premier League?
And yeah, it's, you know, at the end of the day,
another job here easy.
Yeah, it makes him being in the Premier League makes him look better than being a Championship manager, to be fair. But
what's your thoughts on it though?
Like deadline day?
Yeah, just the lack of. What's your general?
It was so Newcastle. That's the thing. It was just
Don't
awful.
cry. Don't cry.
I'm gonna cry. The fact that we're getting rid of players and we didn't bring any backups, like left back. What are we gonna do?
Why we're targeting why we're going for a Southampton left back who didn't get games?
Because it's cheap, probably.
We're back up with Paul Dummett.
Yeah.
Replacement for Lazaar, like for like.
We need a replacement in left back because I don't know.
Why wasn't a number 10 signed?
I don't know. Money. It's frustrating us. It's actually frustrating us.
Invent it.
The fact that everybody left at like 4 or 5 o'clock as well. That just showed, because we were linked with them throughout the day. You see Rafa leave, you see Charlie leave, and we're still linked with them, but it's like, well, of course it's not going to happen because everyone's gone home. When on deadline day, you know, Chris Hughton and Brighton, they were out there till past 11 o'clock. It just shows the commitment of the board. You know, they're not committed to going out and spending money, obviously, but...
Elisha, you're far too nice. Go on, Will, fire away.
I don't even know where to start with this one. I mean, the whole Target thing, apparently there are two sides where he wanted a 6-month deal and we wanted to have it for a full season. Okay, but it was also apparently Southampton wanted a stupid amount of money for a loan deal for him to come on a year. So in that regard, you can kind of, if they're being ridiculous about it, then fine. But I've had this Kennedy thing lined up for like 3 weeks.
And the board couldn't do it.
And apparently this deal was agreed 3 weeks ago, and then we were just waiting for them to sign Mahrez, for them to sign Zappacosta, and when they did, nothing happened for no apparent reason. To have sold, I was encouraged actually when we sold the likes of Sim de Jong, because I thought, well, that means we are getting in another number 10, because there's no way, of course there's no way we go into a Premier League season with...
Talking about Sim de Jong, didn't we?
Yeah, to go into a Premier League season with Perez and Diame as the number 10s, I was thinking, of course we're not going to do that, but of course we've done it. It's just this bit of investment we needed. I mean, we've said it earlier in the podcast. Like, yes, you might have to take out 20 million to invest it, but you're going to gain 150 if you stay up. It's just I can't believe we've put ourselves in this position where we've only got one left back who's injured. We've got one left back who's injured.
Well, we've got two, but he's injured as well.
Yeah, and when was the last time Hadara played from Barnsley? But even before that, I mean, I don't even think I was alive. But it just beggars, like, I'm just absolutely stoned for words that we allowed it to happen, to be this unprepared. And it's the only way that Rafa's going to stay, I think, beyond this season is January, or if the owners change.
This is not going to happen anytime soon.
The owners are not going to change. I think because the Premier League money's paid in instalments, isn't it? Yeah. I think if in January, we're like 18th or 17th with like 1 point difference, I think they are going to invest, because they can't let this happen again. Surely.
You know how Mike Ashley said.
But we said that before.
You know how Mike Ashley said he wasn't going to sell until we won a trophy.
We did win the championship trophy.
Apart from that
was a big
major trophy, as he said. He does realise you have to spend money to win a trophy. So either
a trophy or the Champions League.
Right. Let me ask you this question. This was pointed out by someone in fan cams. If you've got a shop and you don't stock up, what happens?
You don't make money.
And we're relying on outsourced third party to make money.
Yeah. And all the Sports Direct advertisement, which we get no money from as well.
Yeah, actually, I've got another point about that. In that interview that he said, he said two things. First of all, he said that he wished he never changed the Sports Direct arena for 6 months or however long it was. But then he said something else about, like,
but he got money
Newcastle don't have this 40 million naming stadium rights deal.
Yeah.
So was he just trying to hint that that's what he was trying to do?
Yeah, that was evident that you changed the name to bring more revenue, potentially buyers, and obviously that caused a massive uproar.
Yeah, but we don't have a stadium rights name because he's plastered his name all over the bleeding thing. Yeah, so of course we don't.
That'll have to come down, obviously.
I mean, to be honest, I don't think the Fun 88 arena really has a good ring to it, but
if it brings 40 million then.
If it brings 40 million, I don't care.
You can't change the name. Nah, I'm old school. Yeah. You can't change James Park. It has to remain that.
You have to invest. Sure, you can't have left. This is the thing. It's I think the squad at the minute, there are weaknesses in there, but there are some pretty decent players.
Yeah.
Yes, but it's the fact that the teams around us, such as, I mean, Huddersfield have had a great start and they look like a really good unit. Swansea have got Renato Sanchez and Wilfred Bonney. Crystal Palace they did, but they do look a very good team anyway. And they've got a great midfield three of. I think Lucas is a great signing for them. And they've got a great manager in Paul Clement. To see, again, Crystal Palace have had a bad start, but they've got a good amount of players like Zaha, like Benteke, like our very own Johan Kabay.
Can I just go back to that Paul Clement thing? Apparently he uses his contacts in football to get these players in.
Yeah, because he has all the big clubs, big clubs.
So is Rafa.
Well, that's the talk, because Rafa was allegedly looking at a couple of Real Madrid players as well. Lucas Vasquez.
Where are all these Chelsea players that apparently we were talking to?
Yeah, because we're linked to Joselu, because he knows Joselu from Real Madrid. That's why he went in for him. That's the link there. Manquillo, Spanish. We've got quite a few Spanish players. All in all, that just touching that deadline day, we're all pretty deflated and everybody upset again. The board, for me, I feel for Rafa as well, because he's trying to do a job, and some pundits have come out and saying just shut up and get on with your job. And I think that's a little bit harsh, because you've done what you've said you've done. You've gained money now. I want to talk.
Up his end of the bar.
Yeah, you sold the players. You got rid of Hanley, De Jong. I want to talk about De Jong in a minute because I missed him off. That was meant to be on the list. Well, it is on the list, but skipped it. Lazaar, Riviere, and he's done because all he kept saying is let's get players at the door, let's get players at that. That's all he kept going on about. When he done it, and then he done that part, and the board then needed to do their part, and again they've let us down. And I touched upon when I was on 40's channel that Rafa's been let down 3 times this summer. Well, January, because he was meant to get Townsend, There was allegedly the Tom Kearney bid going in. The board couldn't get them over the line. And then the start of May, the end of May, you had them list of targets that he wanted. He didn't get them, so he's got second-rate players, second, third, fourth, fifth choice in them positions, whatever it may be. And then again on deadline day, the board for me are not adept. They're not.
How does Mike actually think he's kept his end of the bargain here? Because we've gone in with a squad that's not finished.
Well, there's just Justin Barnes who's come in at the club who's trying to sell Newcastle for Ashley.
Yeah.
And that whole carry on with the Chinese thing, I generally think that's a smokescreen. I don't think that was real. I think it was Mike Ashley trying to get his name out there. That
he was trying to
Newcastle,
say someone's in the process of buying it. So you invest. So people that are
like a
interested
bidding
get
war.
on your bike and start.
Yeah, like an auction.
Exactly.
That's what he was doing. It's a smokescreen.
I mean, I do understand that if, from an investor's point of view, if there are people selling the club, you want to protect your investment as much as possible. But at the minute, no one's buying because you set the price at a ridiculous amount of money. I was talking to some guy. I think it was against Barnsley. I think you were doing a fan cam. I was talking to him. Apparently, the Sheikhs were going to buy Newcastle before Ashley said it was worth 500 million quid, and they went and bought Man City for 250. Yeah. So. I mean, I can't even fathom like how can he expect to sell this club because, you know, he's asking too much now. If it's in the Championship, no one's going to buy it, realistically, unless you lower your asking price by half.
Even if it's not like a full buyer, maybe a half, 50-50 or a 30.
If they had an investor.
I know Arsenal get bad criticism, but they've got like Kroenke and Gazidis and all these people, but they've got like big investments, 30% yard, 40, whatever. If we had something like that, at least it's pushing money into the club. But whether Ashley wants to do that or he wants to sell it all, we're going to have to live with it until he's gone. And he will go eventually because we all thought Sir John Hall, when he would going back probably before your time, when he come in, it was 1990 or something, and then he brought Keegan in 92, and then he changed Newcastle. I generally think he changed the city, built the stadium up. Look at that, literally next door, 10 yards away from the stadium, iconic, beautiful. I think we're going to have to live with it. Unfortunately, there's going to be more and more. It's just a point what I think is, how much more does Rafa say, right, that's it, I'm off, I'm sick of this?
End of the season.
Because
as it currently stands, I think end of the season. January
is our last hope, and I think it's a small. If he doesn't get his players in January, I generally think he's off. I don't care.
Yeah.
I think he'll, because he's done it at Liverpool. The Gillette and Hicks, when they come in, bought Liverpool, the American owners. Rafa Benitez couldn't buy his own players. He had to go third party all the time, asking the board, and it was he just said, right, that's it, I'm off. And there'll be a point, yes, his family's in the world and he's settled, it's close, it's only a couple hour drive or 3 hour drive back home, and sometimes he stays over on match nights and so on and so on. Ideally, he's not far from home, Rafa, from Newcastle, Liverpool. I know you might think that's a bit of a difference, but if he was to go to West Ham, for example, that's quite a hike, you know, for get up and down, because
I think currently his mindset is that he owes us to stay in the Premier League. I think that's it for all the work he did to get us back out of the Championship. And kind of how we treated him at the end of the season, we got relegated. He felt like he had to do that, and I think his mindset now is, you know, I have to owe these fans who have worshipped me essentially to stay in the Premier League. But as soon as that's happened,
you wouldn't do it with Keegan.
I don't think so. No, I don't think he would have left. I think
we all twice.
I think we all kind of thought because that's happened for Keegan to walk out, that it would have happened straight after this. But I think with the relationship he has with the fans, I think he feels as though that he owes us to stay in the Premier League. But once he's done that, there's no reason really for him to stay, because he's not going to get back. He's not going to be able to achieve what he wanted to achieve, because he wanted to come here and build us back up to be, you know, at least to be a top 10 club comfortably. But with the lack of investment, that's just not going to happen, and he needs the money to invest in these players. So for him, he's not worth, because there are so many clubs, because like West Ham, who, yes, their signings might not be, you might question them, you might question how good their board is, but at least they are ambitious and they're spending money. You know, think how much money they spent this summer, they spent last summer, the stadium, all this. They are a club.
Mind you, with West Ham, if you look at their net spend, it's only about 12 million.
Yeah, actually, I think because I said our net spend was bigger, but actually theirs is.
Yeah, so West Ham. I think West Ham are quite similar to us with their board.
I know, but with that stadium, with all that, I think they are generating.
They're trying to do something.
And also
yeah.
the fact that they've spent, what was it, 27 on out of it's 20 on IU. a 16 on Hernandez. You know, they are showing to at least bring in big names and showing a bit of ambition.
Yeah, yes, they don't spend much, but at least they plough it back in.
We got Jacob Murphy.
And at least the board put the money back in. Right, so coming off deadline day, I would love to know what you think in your comments down there below, of course, on YouTube. Right, so we've totally forgot about talking about Siem de Jong. He was actually on the list, but because I had him mixed up with a game. Let's talk about Siem de Jong, because we've all touched upon there's a problem at number 10. Now, I think he would have benefited. Now, let's go back pre-season, because he was playing. He was featured. But right, he's going to be here. He's going to battle Jose Perez, because we know that Mo Diarmi in pre-season was, and the back end of last season, was playing in a deeper role, and he looked so much better there. And I thought, right, de Jong keeps the ball. Yes, doesn't have great pace, but at least he'll keep the ball. He'll slot in through balls, whereas Perez is more of a busy bee. Yeah. Wrong decision for me to let him go, Elisha.
Yeah, I've got to agree. I was very surprised because the amount I shouted about getting a number 10, and we let arguably one of the better of them go. You know, we're now stuck with Perez and Diarmi, and I think he's got more quality than Diarmi at least, and could give Perez a run for his money. So I was very disappointed to see him go, to be fair.
Well, it's disappointing to go in the fact that we haven't got anyone else in. I think it didn't surprise you too much because he wasn't included in either of the first two matchday squads, and that includes an injury crisis hit Huddersfield one. But Siem de Jong, for what he showed in pre-season, he did show a bit of promise, and then to have it's just kind of almost be thrown out the door. I don't know if that's really the best way to describe it, but in the fact that we couldn't get another number 10 in, there were names that were circulating, like what was it, like Jovetic and Prayet and all that. For us to not get him, for us to sort of sell him and not have anybody else lined up, I think it was the wrong decision, because, you know, Rafa might have thought we were freeing up wages. Does
that worry you now? Because if you look at Perez, looks like he's going to be the first choice number 10. Yeah. And then if he has a dip in form, which he will have because he's that type of player, and then you've got Mo Diarmi coming in that 10, that worries me, because does he play a Richie there? Does he bring Murphy in? He's going to have to... That's a problem. We're talking about it all from January, probably even before January, didn't we?
I think we've seen it a couple of times where Richie's moved into that 10, so I would hope that that's what happens. But Mo Diarmi can give him the number 10 shirt. I mean, there's all this that it's that he'll be played there. But I think Richie would be a good option in there, and having Atsu and Aarons or Atsu and Murphy.
He's not going to change the formation, is he?
He's not. We have to kind of accept that and move on, unless we're really not doing well with it and he tries to change it. You know, we've seen Arsene Wenger go to 5 at the back. He's one of the most stubborn managers I've ever seen.
Even 3.
Exactly. We need to have at least something. We need to try at least something, or to go with 2 strikers, go with 4-4-2, because right now it's questionable, because I think because with this formation it seems that we're going to have our off days, and we're going to have days where we're looking fine, like against West Ham, but then the off days against Huddersfield.
That's the problem I've got. That's where you need to mix it up when it's not going to plan. Yes, he's going to play the 4-2-3-1, which we accept. Yeah. But it's when it's not going well, that's where how Rafa took. Like, for example, the Huddersfield game, that was hostile for Gale. We were all shouting on, get Mitrovic on, play the 2 big men up top, chuck them, get balls in the box, old school.
He swaps 1-1.
Go old school, but in Liverpool, he'd never done that either. He had the Gerrard in the 10, and they had Torres up. He was exact same formation. He wouldn't change at all. We're going to have to live with it.
Well, did you see when he did that sort of fans meeting in 9 bar?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, and he kind of went around the room asking the system. People saying like 4-4-2, 4-4-1-1. He literally just walked out because it's like 4-2-3-1. It is his formation. It's what he believes is best.
Yeah, and he said that it's not the system, it's the players. I've got to slightly disagree with that. What he said.
I think you've got to work. There's a degree of, yes, we've probably got limited resources in terms of our playing squad, but you've got to adapt what you have to a formation, because if you've got a squad there, you thoroughly believe in going with 3-4-3. This is something that's been talked about, like Frank de Boer at Crystal Palace. If you don't have wing backs, why would you play that? Yeah. Why would you go with something like that if you didn't have the players for it? I think we do have the players for a 4-2-3-1, apart from a consistent number 10, which I think we'll get onto in a minute. But I think he needs to have a bit more tactical flexibility, because I think we could cater for having Gale and Mitrovic, or Joselu and Mitrovic, or Joselu and Gale as 2 strikers, and having 2 strikers up there would give us a lot more attacking threat if we needed to go out and win a game.
Yeah. Hello, Elisha. Hello. Elisha's been on a toilet break. Right. So what we'll do now is we'll get on to your final questions. There's 8 of them. There might have more come through, so apologise if I hadn't read them out because obviously we're starting at 1 o'clock. If you've filled in on YouTube or Twitter or Snapchat or whatever, sorry about that because we've passed the deadline. Right. So 8 questions. It's obviously predominantly focused on transfers. So Simon Paul Smart on Facebook says, because we don't have a fit left back, do you think Haidara will be given a chance? That's the first question. Also, if Manquillo keeps leaking goals, should Gamez step in until Yedlin's fit to return? Well, I don't think there's much point on that second part because Yedlin is almost back, so that'll solve that problem, I would think. But do we insist with... I think the question is, I'll rephrase that question for you, Simon. Do we insist with Mbemba, or does you bring Haidara back from the cold?
I'd stick with Mbemba.
Would you?
Yep. I think some games he's actually stood out as one of our best. So I'd play him, why not? See how it goes. And then if it doesn't work, possibly bring him in. But for now, I'd play Mbemba.
Well,
Haidara's been given a squad number. He's been including in the Premier League squad. So
Jack callback.
Yes, he was indeed.
So he can play there.
I doubt it. I mean, at the minute, because it's working, there's no reason to change it. You don't change a winning team. I wish I learned that on my Football Manager save, but
comes the sun.
Constant thinking man. But I think Chancellor Member's working there at the minute. He's got. Do you know what? He's actually got a pretty decent left foot for a right-footed centre back. But I can see if again there is an injury crisis or whatever that we will bring him back into the squad.
Let's just say we've got Liverpool the 1st of October. Liverpool target them, and he puts Sadio Mane against Chancellor Mbemba. Would you rather have Mbemba there, or would you rather have Haidara there against players like that, or does he change it? Because I think for me personally, at the minute, stay with Mbemba. But as soon as he has a bit of a wobble, I think that's when you've got to look at bringing your natural. Because Dummett's out in November. That's probably 10 games you would say in the Premier League from now until November, maybe even a little bit more. You really can't keep going for Mbemba, can you, for another 10, 11 more games, surely?
The other option's Kieran Clark.
Or keep Jack Cole back and play there?
Yeah, no. If you're going to use your example of Sadio Mane against Jack Colback, I don't even want to think.
Good point.
Haidara I've never seen tackle, ever, not even once.
He's better going forward though, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, there are other options as well. I mean, Manquillo's been known to play left back. You can do that and put Gamez at right back, or Yedlin, or you can put Gamez at left back if you.
I don't think Gamez will play much again.
I don't think so either. But if you want to think about any options we do have, then that's probably would be. But if we're playing Liverpool, then we're gonna do a full West Brom and stick 10 centre backs on the pitch, and then 1 striker up front. Well, you have a centre back. No, what was it? 9 centre backs, goalkeeper, and striker. I think that's their tactics. But I think Haidara might be used if there is an injury crisis, but at the minute I don't think he's going to change it. Plus, Leggy Wen's back, so another centre back to go in there. If you put him in there, Kieran Clark at left back. If you want to kind of keep with that attacking right back, defensive left back. In the system that Rafa seems to really fancy. I think that's going to be what we're going to go with.
Cool. Let's move on to question 2. This is more of a personal question rather than a football. All of these questions are football related, except from this one. Ollie Greggs from YouTube wants to know what's your work / college or whatever you all do, uni, YouTube schedule. So, what's your schedule, Elisha? Talk about if you're uploading a video to your own channel. What do you do? How do you prepare it? I think that's what he tries to mean. So, if you're uploading a YouTube video, what do you do during the day, and then how do you upload it and share it and stuff? I think that's what he means.
Well, during the day I have college, and then if anything happens to say if there's a game, I try to get it out a few days before the game. But it never works that way.
It has.
You know what? I haven't even done a transfer video yet.
You did a West Ham one. It was like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Do one with us.
But I try. There is a schedule in my head, but it just doesn't work. But yeah, after I try to get it as close to the games as possible, without missing it, which I do sometimes.
And you're part of us as well, which we get you on match days as well.
Yeah, fan cams and match days.
Podcasts.
Yeah.
And we're going to push you for an individual channel.
Yeah.
Video, not channel.
Yeah. But yeah, I just try to work everything around it and have some sort of schedule, which doesn't work.
Yeah. So, Will, when you do a video, you normally do the transfer rumours and stuff, don't you?
Yeah.
Which I hate doing. You know that, don't you? I
Yes,
can't
you
stand doing because I hate fake news, so to speak. Even though I'd done one about our man Ryan Babel, which didn't go down too well.
That was hilarious.
Oh, it was good, wasn't it?
You know what? I actually thought I went, hold on.
Did you?
No, we surely haven't.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I was actually watching like a Liverpool's highlight thing, and he scored like a Rabona against Besiktas or something. Do you know what? I would have had him.
He actually done alright last season, to be fair. He scored 6 goals from 21 games for a winger/striker. That's 1 and 3.
What, you watch the Turkish league?
No, but I've seen his stats. I don't watch. Yeah. But anyways, so your schedule, if you're doing a video and stuff, and what do you do?
Well, unfortunately, it's not like the good old days where I would just make a video on my phone and then just send it to Lee and let him do it. But yes, he did. But when I was at school, my teacher actually, I think a couple are actually subscribed to this, and I had like an end of year thing, and they had it in front of the whole, like my whole school from year 0 to year 13, and they said this was like one of the things I do. So you got a massive promoter of about 1,000 people. In a Big Ten, but my schedule would be obviously I would have school during the day, come back, you know, I'd have to do something boring like read a book or write an essay. I wrote a lot of essays, but I always, as like my pastime, I'd always check on stuff. So if it was transfer rumours, so in like the January or
homework, haven't you? Prepare.
Yeah, you do, because you will get caught out incredibly if you don't. Yeah. And the difficult thing with the transfer rumours is that they change every day. I mean, I've made a few videos this summer where I've made it, and then the next day, what I've said before, none of it is relevant. So I've had to scrap it a couple of times. But with editing, I mean, I haven't actually been at school since May. So I've had.
Now, when you say school, people are going to think you're 14 or 15.
I haven't been at sixth form since May.
So you're 18.
Yeah. And obviously I had my exams and stuff, so I really was kind of sort of like, I can't do anything at this time.
Partying, I've seen the Snapchat.
Yeah, very much so as well. And it's a hard life. It's a hard life.
Hard life being a student.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, when I go to Manchester, I'm hoping to still keep myself involved. And I mean, I don't know if you're gonna. I'll have to do transfer ones again, won't I?
No, the transfer ones, you can do videos on like. Your own reviews and stuff. It's your channel as well, it's not just mine. I just try and push if there's no videos coming off yours. Yeah. So my schedule, if it's a day off, for example today, this is the podcast which I prepared. I've got a massive sheet in front of me from your questions, massive sheet of everything we just talked about. Prepare it, put out a tweet, put a little picture on there, edit the picture, just let everybody know that it's happening. And then what I'll do after this, obviously I'm going to the gym, have a cheeky sunbed, and then I'll be heading back to pick up my bike, I think it is the day, and then I've got to go and edit all this videos, and that takes a good 2-3 hours. But now I've got the Mac, which I've only had like about 2 months. I can now do it in my living room, watching a bit of football instead of sitting in my little studio room like a hermit all night. But yeah, if I'm at work, that's a bit of a chaotic day for us, because I'm at work 11 hours a day. Sometimes I finish at 10 o'clock at night, and then I'm up till 5 in the morning doing videos, editing, get them out, because for me there has to be a 24-hour window. They have to go out, and without them you're lacking. So that's my schedule. Anyways, we'll digest. Sorry, that was a bit boring, folks. Right, back to football. Jake Thompson on YouTube asks, Elisha, do you think Mourinho playing so well it might take Shelvey's game to another level? Great question.
That is a good question. Depends if you play them together though.
Does he get in the side?
I'll play Hayden.
Who's he playing?
Sub. I would use him as a sub. If they played at the same time, it could improve his game, because I think kind of suit each other. But I would use him as a substitute instead.
Yeah, okay. Will, what's your thoughts that can push Shelby on? I
mean, we've already seen some of Mikel Merino, but people are already branding him as the reformed Xabi Alonso. I mean, it's competition's always good. I think Rafa at the minute probably prefers Merino because he offers something similar to Shelvey, where he can, you know, he has quite a good. Okay, let's go with that. Where you know, he does provide defensive work, but also can ping at 80 yards or whatever to the shoelace of Cristiano or Matt Ritchie or whatever, and to have that, but doesn't have the temperament of John Joe Shelvey, who, you know, maybe is arguably our best player. To have 11 players on the pitch is much more important. So I think it's going to be difficult for Shelvey to get back into the side, and hopefully that will up his game. I think if Shelvey eradicates, I mean, this is something I said before the start of the season, if Shelvey eradicated any sort of, you know, anger and not having to, you know, stamp on Dele Alli, you know, he really could push the, you know, for a World Cup space for England, because the centre mid is always a problem position.
Well, Jake Livermore gets an England side.
Exactly. So I think Shelvey, he could, but if he's not playing there, he's not going to. You know, he really should be. So I think hopefully it will help him. I think those two together would be a very interesting partnership, and it's something that I would like to see at least happen, at least tried. Whether it will or not, I don't think so. But I think it's always good to have competition in the squad, and I wish we had a bit more.
One thing I've got about if you play them together is going backwards. Who's giving you that?
I think Marino, because we've seen Marino play centre back both in pre-season and for Borussia Dortmund, so I think that will probably be the solution there.
Possibly, but if they play together, is he up to speed with, like, say we're playing Arsenal or someone, or Man United? Is that defensively? I don't know. We'll see. I think you'll have to wait and see if that pushes Shelvey on.
Well, if we went 5 we wouldn't have to.
So moving over to Twitter question. So 4star_, so that's 4star with an A and a H on the end, _ asks, are you worried about relegation this season after a terrible transfer window, or do you think we have enough to stay up, and will Rafa walk? Elisha?
I'm concerned that we don't have a plan B. So if this season doesn't go well, we haven't really got another plan. I don't think we'll get relegated. Rafa needs money in January. I'm very worried he'll walk after that, because by January you're going to have other Premier League teams getting rid of their managers, and he could easily walk into another Premier League side. So hopefully in January we'll invest. Whether we do or not is a different thing, but we're going to have to keep Rafa, because I think by January, even if I was him, I'd be sick of it by now. But it's up to Mike Ashley and putting something into the club.
I've already said I don't think Rafa will walk this season. I think he'll walk at the end, if he's going to walk at all. In terms of the squad, we've been ranked to have the second worst, only saved by the fact that Brighton don't seem to have a proper consistent goal scorer. I mean, they haven't scored in the first 3. I think we lack depth, but, you know, just that bit of quality might be the difference for us. Plus, I think our manager gives us an extra 10% in terms of well, actually probably a bit more than that, in all honesty. Again, I've said this is what worries me, is how strong the teams are around us. I think Huddersfield, you can probably make an argument that they don't have that much strength and depth.
Don't know who the players are, do we? There's still a bunch of unknowns.
Yeah, exactly, which, you know, gives them a bit of unpredictability. But they have definitely got some very good players, like Mooney, who looks like a good goal scorer, Aaron Moyes, who's been absolutely running the show for them. But again, this is the thing. You can't really judge it so much after 3 games, because we saw Hull last season won their first 2 and got relegated. Sunderland proved to us on many occasions, apart from last season, that you can, you know, not win in the first half of the season and still stay up. So I think a lot depends on January. If we get a couple of players in who can add a bit of competition, who can give us a bit more quality, because this is, again, this is the thing I'll say again, you see the strength of the teams that we should be fighting. You know, you have to say we're probably the weakest out of all of them. And to get 17th is going to be really, really hard, because I don't think there are 3 worse teams. I'm not convinced there are 3 worse teams than us. I would say we're probably on a level par of probably how strong Burnley's squad is. I think they've got a good squad, like, running through them, and a good togetherness. Yeah. So we're going to have to really capitalise on the home form and hope that we get some good results.
I was scared a little bit at the end of the transfer window. I thought, oh yeah, he's going to walk because the ball let him down, but I think he'll stay. I think January is really, really crucial. Okay, this is a great question from Kahuth on Twitter. Which player are you most disappointed about Newcastle missing out on? Well, that's a fabulous question. That's a great question. So I'll let you think before I come to you. I'm going to say Lucas Perez for me, because he gets your goals, He can play in the number 10, he can play also out wide, and he's a striker, and he's proven in La Liga. And despite not playing many games in Arsenal, he actually went on, bang a hat-trick in the Champions League, barely got a look in. So for me, he's the most that we were genuinely interested in. Of course, we would love to see someone like a big name player, but realistically, that's the player that we were generally linked to. And Rafa talked about him at the Premier League show. And for me, Lucas Perez for me. Elisha?
To be different, I'm going to say Kennedy. As much as in the last podcast, I didn't really want him, but now looking on how bad the chance.
Gibbs, because he only went for like 7 million.
So we're really in for him though.
I think we were interested. I think we were definitely interested. I mean, that's not my name. You can say what you want. I'm just questioning him.
No, I would have gone for Kennedy because the fact that Chelsea got their replacements and we could have had them. We could have realistically had him because Chelsea brought in their replacements. So I was a bit disappointed after all the talk of that. It was nailed on that we were going to get him on loan. I think was it on loan we were going to get him. But I was quite disappointed with that one, to be fair.
I mean, I'd say Lucas Perez, but again, I kind of want to be different. I mean, a name like Batshuayi would have been great, but the one I'm going to say is Dennis Praet from Sampdoria. I looked him up and I didn't YouTube scout him. I actually read scout reports, see what the kid's about, and a ready-made number 10, which is something you've harped on about that we needed all season long. And a kid that was apparently very keen to come to Newcastle, a kid with his head very firmly on his shoulders.
Like him in Tielemans.
Yeah, he did as well. Really started in the Champions League from an age of about 18 or something. Came from the same academy as Kevin De Bruyne. Just looks an absolutely fantastic footballer, and probably one that I hope that we can visit in January as a fix for the number 10 once we've got a bit of Premier League money in. It would have been expensive, but he would have been a fantastic addition to our squad.
Yeah, Dr. Cookie, who quite well is interactive with us quite heavily on Newcastle Fans TV. I think we've already really answered this, but I'll go through it again anyways. Do you think we'll sign players in January? And if it looks like, could we go down? I think if we don't. So I'll answer this first of all. I think we'll have to, because if we don't, I think Rafa's away.
Yeah, I have to agree. We'll have to sign players.
Regardless of what position.
Regardless, we just need depth, and at that point in the season, that's when we're going to need depth, because we're going to the players are going to start getting tired. Injuries might start creeping in at that stage. Hopefully not, but they might. So I'm saying, yeah, we're going to have to invest in January.
Couldn't have put it better myself.
Oh, that was brief. Well, right. So moving on to Mac's opinion, who's a YouTuber, who asks if Rafa managed to steady the ship until January, and can manage to get us a number 10 on the left back. Who would everybody purchase? So it's basically names that we throw out there. I think we've thrown a couple already. For me, I think as long as it's an attacking left back who's proven in the Premier League, I'll be fairly happy. He doesn't have to be playing for the top 4 sides. For me, I want to see someone who's Premier League proven. And the left back, the number 10, I've already mentioned, like someone like a Lucas Perez or we've talked about Jovetic. I'd love to get him, but he joined Monaco with the Mbappe money going out with.
Perez is at Deportivo now, so
yeah. So. Yeah, so those are the ones I would, but in January it's difficult to say. It depends on who we're in for, but for me the main two is they've got to be Premier League proven for me. Elisha?
Yeah, I totally agree. Not any standout names, but just Premier League proven.
Someone who you know can do a job.
Yeah, someone who's been there, done it, and can add quality and depth to it.
Yeah, I agree. I think January will be interesting because I think a lot of players that probably turned us down this summer, or players that we thought we would be in for, maybe they won't play anywhere near as much as they thought they would do this in the first half, and might jump at the chance of a loan move. So we might have more names. I've already said Prayer, but in Premier League names, I mean, you could probably pick quite a few in terms of names that you want to pick out of there. I think a left back would be ideal, even if it is Matt Target again or someone like that. And yeah, frankly, just anyone at this moment in time.
Cool. And then the final question from Krul Schmidt, must be German, I think. Twitter asks, what position needs strengthened most in January? I think we've covered that already. Will Lejeune, Yedlin and Dummett go straight back into the first team when they're ready? And Bemba has done well in my opinion. I think all three will eventually go back in if they're fully fit. I don't think any of them really have any concerns about losing their position problems. Maybe if Lascelles and Clark, if we hit a bit of form, maybe Lejeune will be dropped. But I think Yedlin and Dummett are certain starters every game if they're fit. unless there's rotation and maybe got 2 games in a week like Christmas and stuff. But Elisha?
Yeah, I'd put them 3 straight back in the team. Again, probably the best picks out of the defence. Yeah, and there's not much to say about that because the defence is...
Script.
Yeah, it's bad. But yeah, I'll just stick them straight back in.
Yeah, I agree. I think all 3 straight back into the team. And yeah, definitely still need strength in January, as we've pretty much covered. The defence is incredibly weak. We need strength throughout. I think we need a couple more positions, but definitely defensively, because if we build on that and even if we keep getting 0-0 draws, as boring as that may be, if we're picking up points, then that'll help us enormously as we hopefully survive this season.
Thank you very much. Right, we're going to wrap up. So obviously this podcast is available on iTunes, SoundCloud, Podomatic, and also on YouTube as well. So thank you very much for listening. We're going to do a couple of outros where people can find you, their social media things and stuff like that. So everything Newcastle Fans TV. I'm not going to go into it too much. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Tumblr. We're even on Pinterest, whatever it's called, Snapchat, Facebook, Pinterest, whatever it's called. We're everywhere. Skype, Newcastle Fans, everywhere. It's all Newcastle Fan TV. Elisha, where can people find your channel and your links as well?
Mine's Elisha FC on YouTube, and from then on you can find all the links to my social medias.
You can find me on Newcastle Fans TV, and if you want to find me on Twitter, it is Dixon MP4.
You can also find him around the globe. So he's always on holiday. Right, so yeah, we're going to wrap up. Just quickly mention again Bradley Lowry again. So if you want to get involved in that, please do. It's a good cause. These guys are going to be involved in, hopefully as well, the backroom team, a couple of people from work, and hopefully these people, your friends, get them involved as well. So get involved in that. The 24th of October is the key date. We're going to be walking from the Stadium of Light to St James Park, just next to us here. So hopefully get you involved. There's going to be a link in the description for the donation page as well. Please share it. It's going to be a healthy cause and a good cause for kids shouldn't suffer from cancer. Thank you very much for listening. All the best. Bye.